welcome back to SammyStrong On Deck Warrior Stories. Thank you so much for being and joining with us today. Again, my name is Sarah Wimhoff-Strawn. The On Deck podcast is an extension of the SammyStrong Foundation, which is a local nonprofit that works to give back to kids and families fighting pediatric brain cancer and the organizations who are also helping them fight. On the On Deck podcast was created to be able to create a space for other families to come on and share their stories and share their journeys in the hopes of creating a little bit of healing, creating a little bit of support for other families, other support systems to kind of figure out how to best support just these warriors and these families when this diagnosis becomes a part of their story and their journey. So thank you so much for being here and taking a listen. If you want to hear anything more about the SammyStrong Foundation, our website is GoSammyStrong.com, and we are on all social medias, Facebook, Instagram, that is also Go SammyStrong as well. So take a look if you have a moment. But in the meantime, I want to introduce you to an amazing woman, and you are also a part of this really, really important moment because, Sarah, although we've technically met about a year ago, we have never been face to face until this moment.
I know.
So that was kind of crazy.
It is crazy.
It's just a kind of a part of like the world, I think, of just pediatric brain cancer and kind of getting to know other families. And sometimes we're able to meet face to face and sometimes we're not, but this is kind of like a big moment. I'm so excited to meet you in the flesh. We've had like a lot of conversations and everything. So thank you. Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast. And I definitely know that there's kind of a duality or can be a duality of emotions of excitement and nervousness, just because it is, we're talking about stuff that has some highs and lows through our lives. So
Definitely.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's an honor. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Sarah Matza, thank you so much. Starting off, just kind of tell us a little bit or share a little bit with us about you and Gavin and your family.
So Gavin, I'm Sarah. And I've been a hairstylist for now 24 years.
Oh, that's incredible.
I'm a mother of 3.
Okay.
Gavin is now 16.
Mm-hmm.
Eva is 14.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a 5-year-old Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sorry, he just turned 6.
That's very important for Ben. He will want you to get that right.
6. Yes. Gavin was diagnosed with a brain tumor at 7 months old.
Wow.
He was a normal, healthy pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
Actually born full term, way past full term.
Okay.
I was induced 40 weeks.
Okay.
I thought he was never going to come out.
Right. Yeah.
8 pounds, 2 ounces.
Okay.
Healthy baby boy.
Yeah.
Just like any mother, you have these hopes and dreams of, just having this healthy, brand new baby.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, and so I thought,
Mm-hmm.
and so did the doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And so 0 to 3 months, everything looked good. And I, at the time, had my own hair studio.
Okay.
And my mom watched him. His dad owned a lawn business and, worked during the day.
Okay.
And days that my mom could not watch him, I would bring him up to my work.
Okay.
Because I was self-employed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was kind of nice because, my clients would hold him and whatnot.
Kind of the best of both worlds at times. Yeah.
So during those times, my clients were the ones that would actually notice differences with Gavin. Mm-hmm. And say to me that his focusing seemed off. Wow. They would hold him and say, he's not really focusing on my face, Sarah. And I'd say, what do you mean? I was a new mother.
So 1,000%. Yeah. We don't know.
I was like, really?
Yeah.
And so at the time, I took it with a grain of salt. And more and more people started to say things. Mm-hmm. And so I addressed it to his dad. Mm-hmm. So we brought it up at, like 3-month checkup.
Like one of the well baby
checkups.
Yeah.
And his doctor said, it could just be an enzyme that's off. I remember them laying Gavin on the table, and it was like a mobile that they put above him. It was like a black and white mobile to have him focus on the colors. And, he just kind of shrugged his shoulders and said, let's just keep an eye on it. And, you trust the doctor. You're just like, okay.
1,000%. Yeah.
So then it got more apparent, and more people started noticing, and myself and his dad started noticing.
Okay.
When we would go to take his picture, he wouldn't look directly at the camera.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so then 6-month checkup, which actually turned in, he was 7 months because for whatever reason, he was 7 months.
Life happens.
Happens. And his doctor said, you know what, let's do an MRI just for safe measure. Mm-hmm. And so we did. Mm-hmm. And I want to say it was like a Friday. He said, let's do an MRI. And so it was like that following Monday. So that weekend, I remember it was October. Mm-hmm. We went to Vala's, and we were at Vala's with one of my friends. I was worried all weekend, and my friend was like, it's probably nothing. Mm-hmm. And, you're worried, and you're thinking it could be all of these things.
You're a new mom. It's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
His dad went to work even. We were just thinking it was nothing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so they took him back to MRI, and I was by myself, and he was not even back from MRI, and a nurse came and got me and brought me into this room with a phone. The phone rang, and it was his doctor, and said they found a mass on Gavin's optic pathway. Oh, and I just remember just like the room spinning.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean a mass? Mm-hmm. And he said it was a brain tumor. Mm-hmm. And I just remember crying, the tears coming down my face. And I said, is he going to die? Mm-hmm. That's where your mind goes.
Instantly. Yeah.
And he just said, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And his dad came up to the hospital, and that next few hours was just chaos. They brought us upstairs. They had us sit in front of a computer. They showed us, the MRI images of the mass. And it was just this giant brain tumor between the brain and the optic nerves, which meant, as a mother and human being, and you're being thrown all this information, and you don't know what you're looking at, other than your baby has brain cancer, and you don't know what you're looking at, and you want all these answers. So the next morning was surgery, and
so they wanted to do
immediate surgery.
Okay.
And so next morning, grandparents came up, and it was chaos again. And the neurosurgeon came down, and everybody was kissing Gavin, and I just had all this fear in my heart. And he said, where this brain tumor is, I can only take out 20%. It's spider webbed through so much that I cannot.
Like the tentacles and
right. I can't guarantee he would come out the same way. So, but we need to take out something to find out, to biopsy it. And so they took him back, and it was a several hour surgery. And he got out of surgery, and Gavin suffered a stroke during the surgery.
Okay.
And it's weird because at the time when they said he had a stroke, I was so focused on his vision at the time. I don't want him to be blind. I don't want him to be blind. I didn't even think anything about the stroke. And
well, because that's what's in front of it. Like, that's what's in front of you is like, it's the optic, you know.
Right.
So
like they'll fix that later, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And so then it was chaos. Like I said, we were there for 2 weeks. We were there for Halloween. You know, we had oncology in there. We had neurosurgery. It was just doctors in there constantly, and trying to process all this information and grieving and anger and sadness and everything. And so Gavin, what we found out, he had 2 forms of brain tumor. He had an aggressive form, pielomyxoid, and a piloacidic.
Okay.
And so one acts aggressively and grows quickly, and one is more benign and grows slowly. But any form of brain tumor, even though it can be benign, can be...
It's not benign.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Anything is not
and that's
good.
something that like in those couple of days, like we had shared on with like our story of just like you talk about like there's so many emotions, there's so much going on. Like, yes, it's like the English language that but like the medical language, I'm just like, I don't like, what are you saying? What do you do? And I remember that was like kind of like my first like, what's happening is when they found Sam's tumor, they just said that like we had found a tumor. And I remember like being like, oh my gosh, but like you get so fixated on words, right? And so I'm like, okay, like it's a tumor, okay, like, and you're trying to like wrap around that. And then we had to transfer hospitals right after we were diagnosed. And it was the next day, but within like 10 hours of them finding it, I was talking with the nurse, and the nurse did not do anything wrong, but I was talking to a nurse, and she goes, okay, like we need to get Child Life in here because we want to like start explaining to Sam about you know, having brain cancer. I remember being like, oh no, like it's just a tumor, like just a tumor, right? Like, and I was like, we don't know if it's cancer or not. And the nurse, I remember it so vividly. Like, I felt so bad for her because like it was like she got like punched in the stomach too, and she was like, "Oh no, for kids, all tumors are cancer." And I remember being like, "Okay, now I like have to like reprocess what I'm already doing a really bad job of processing like really quickly." And I remember being like, no, like that,
right?
No, you said tumor,
right?
Like, and getting mad, you know, and not getting mad, but just like the emotions. And now it's like, well, now it's like a whole nother level, and I think like that's something that, again, you don't know what you don't know, but like a lot of people, because as adults, like it can be a tumor, and that's just as devastating. I understand. I'm not trying to minimize that, but it also can be like, you can live the rest of your life with this tumor because it's benign, because it's not going to do, you know, it's not going to do anything. It may grow, we'll watch it, you know, and different things. And so I think that's just a different level of like, we know what we're like, we're trying to process and we're trying to like figure all this out. And then on top of it, you're like, no, like that's it. Cause we get so focused on those words,
right?
You know, like with that. And so, yeah, it's like the optic. Okay, like let's figure out the optic, and we don't even think that there's all these other things that can be going on because it's the brain, you know, and and it's so overwhelming.
It's so overwhelming.
Yeah. So how like, so he's had his first surgery. He had a stroke during that surgery. And so how were you guys processing now this next layer of information of what's happening? Because did they know right away of what was caused by, or not caused, but like what happened as a result of him having this, or no?
No. And so that's that was a whole nother level of grief because they said, they thought it could have happened in utero. So I beat myself up. Did I eat something when I was pregnant? Was I exposed to something when I was pregnant? I had no idea. And
in that limbo,
we had genetic testing done. They said it was not genetic, and I think it has taken me a very long time for me to accept the fact that it's nothing that I did to Gavin. And a lot of people telling me, they don't know still what is causing brain tumors, and it's just a mystery. But after his surgery, then we left the hospital, and then November they placed the port, and then it was just a downhill slide from there. It was 42 rounds of chemo.
Oh gosh, on a 7-month-old.
And
it's
it
just
was
so
just
you can't comprehend it.
And it was, I still remember the first time I watched them. I know they say chemo is, there to help, kill the cancer, whatnot, but it's very much like poison, if we're being honest. And watching them inject poison into my 7-month-old son, it was just heartbreaking.
And knowing that there's not any other option, we're hoping that it does its job, and not and manage the side effects that we don't know 100% about across the ages and different things.
So they were giving him Zofran around the clock, but I remember, at night laying in bed and hearing him throw up in his crib, and it just got to be a lot. And, we talked about coping, and so I started drinking, and that was my means of coping. It was myself and his father had a very toxic relationship. I'm not speaking ill of his dad. He's a good father, by all means, but us together, we were toxic together. And so I started drinking as my means of coping, and I started, drinking in the evenings and going to chemo hungover, and it was absolute hell. And just trying to numb my feelings.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is sometimes trying to find like that numb, or even the release of your whole body and mind, just anticipating the next punch, where it's
that's exactly just like beating myself up, and it was a horrible feeling, and and not that drinking made it any better,
but it like you said, it's a coping mechanism, and it's seeking some sort of like quote unquote relief, even for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, of like the relaxation of the body, or like, just not having your brain go a million miles. And it's a tremendously difficult journey for anybody, and it can be very lonely, even if you're surrounded by people who are amazing and support systems. I can only imagine also of like already like not having like the co-parenting or the partnership that you guys were wanting and needing in that moment. I imagine that just feels even more isolating and even more lonely. And
it was very lonely. And so what I meant to mention is, I didn't drink through either of my pregnancies. Gavin started going through chemo, and I didn't really full-fledged start drinking until after my daughter was born, because I had a son going through chemo, and then I had a brand new baby, and my ex was working, until late at night. I was isolating myself. I was lonely. I was depressed. I was trying to process, I was still trying to process my firstborn with cancer.
Right.
And then another, child that was just born, probably postpartum going on.
Right. And I think obviously a cancer diagnosis with any child is horrendous, but I think also when it's your first, it can like shift that whole of like, I don't even know what normal is now, especially, I mean, he was diagnosed at 7 months, so it's like there's so many different like milestones and experiences, like you instantly go into almost overdrive fear.
Yes.
And now you're like, well, now I don't even know what like quote unquote typical is, or you're like reading and different things. So then to have Ava, like, very close after, and our two oldest are 15 months apart to the day. So I get like that where you're like, boom, boom, and but then that other layer of like, you're grieving, you are struggling with different like ins and outs on top of Gavin, on top of like you're saying postpartum, and then on top of like, I don't even know how to do this, because after the first 7 months, we've been doing it with this whole other layer of a cancer diagnosis, and and all these different things. So it's like I can imagine just like a deer in the headlights.
Yes.
All day, every day, almost like just like it can be that feeling.
So we were in District 66 at the time.
Okay.
And so we had early childhood come out. Because the area of the stroke Gavin had, they said it would affect speech.
Okay.
And he didn't have speech. And then, how do you teach a blind person, a blind baby speech? Babies learned to talk by watching us, So I was so lost, Sarah. And so they came out, and just fast forward. So we had early childhood coming out. Gavin was going through chemo. I was drinking around the clock. My ex was working and picking up the pieces of, a drunk mother. And I got a DUI in May of 2011. And that was truly God stepping in and putting on the brakes.
Kind of saying you're valued.
Right.
They need you. You need yourself.
Right.
Like,
CPS stepped in, and thankfully that my ex, they knew the grandparents stepped in. My ex was there and present and sober. So we had a village of people taking care of Gavin and Ava at the time.
Okay.
So I went to treatment, and excelled in treatment, came home, and did well for a while again, relapsed, went back to treatment, excelled, came home, relapsed, went back to treatment. I went to treatment 3 times.
Wow.
It was the definition of insanity. Expecting a different result. And so finally my ex and I just decided, this isn't working.
Okay. Something has to change.
Right. We both love our children, but we're just not good together. We both want the best for our children.
What an incredible just not only self-awareness, but relationship awareness. That's not a word, but like relationship awareness of like, we gotta, like, we almost have to kind of sacrifice the relationship to do what is needed to get done for the betterment and the most important of like our kids and what they're seeing.
Right.
Yeah. Because how old were Gavin and Ava?
So
at the
they
time?
were pretty little.
Okay.
Ava doesn't remember. She was 3,
Okay.
and we would fight a lot, and I was 19 when my parents divorced, and
Okay.
I remember them fighting, and I didn't want that
Right.
for her
Yeah.
or Gavin,
Right.
being
Yeah.
blind especially. So I just knew that it would be better. We would be better off as friends, and I knew I could do it. I knew I could stay sober, and so we went our separate ways, and I met a wonderful guy. I moved into a sober living community
Okay.
with women, and for about a year, and then a year later, I met a wonderful man, and he's now been sober 10 years, and we have been together now, and we just make a great team. He's sober. He's a great stepfather to Gavin and Ava, and we just make a good team.
Yeah.
We have a good bond. So
what were some of those in those, or that time of your doing the sober living, trying to like continue to put your best foot forward for yourself, for your kids? What were some of the healthier coping strategies, or like kind of like grounding, or things that like you learned or put in place and did to shift? I mean, because like that's a whole shift in lifestyle. Sometimes people you're around, like thought process. I mean, like that, like top down, like a shift with that.
First and foremost, I had to learn to forgive myself and stop caring so much what people thought of me.
Yeah.
I'm a people pleaser. By nature. I always have been. I'm an empath by nature. I surrounded myself by empowering women that had been sober for double digits, and asked them how they did it.
Yeah.
How did you do it? What did you do?
Right. Yeah. Kind of tap into that strength that has already
Yes.
been there, and yeah, able to say, hey, let's try this, or let's look at this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. What have been for you, for your family, any like unexpected like moments of joy or moments of strength in that, not necessarily like the earlier years, but the times of like coming and then meeting your current husband, and kind of having that be a different step in the journey, but kind of in those hard, dark days, and there still are hard, dark days, right? Like with it, but in those those couple of years of like the hard, dark days, what if any can you remember, like that was
definitely a God moment I want to share. Is and this is back when Gavin and Ava's dad and I were together, but we were at the circus one time, and we had mixed up our seats with a woman, and we ended up sitting next to her. And to look at Gavin, you wouldn't be able to tell he's blind, unless you really fixate on him. And she looked at my ex, and she said, is he visually impaired? And he said, yeah. And she said, I'm an occupational therapist at the Nebraska School for the Blind. And we had never heard of that school.
Okay, yeah.
And so he went down and toured it and found out about this school. We were going to mainstream him into normal school.
Yeah, because you don't know. I mean, yeah, like with the resource, yeah, it's hard.
Gavin, now being 16, cognitively, he is about Ben's age, about 6.
Okay.
And so we fought tooth and nail to get Gavin into this school for about 3 years after we found out and toured, and we were like, wow, this school is designed for Gavin. You know, they have nurses on staff, they have physical and occupational therapy. You know, with Gavin's stroke, he's right-sided weak.
Okay.
He wouldn't be sitting in a mainstream classroom all day learning algebra when he doesn't even know or care about that. So this will be now his 8th year at the Nebraska School for the Blind.
Okay.
Last year, he just won an art award through the American Printing House through the Blind, and won a trip to Louisville, Kentucky, and was awarded a national art award.
Oh my gosh, Sarah, that gives me goosebumps. Oh my gosh.
That was a total God moment.
Yeah.
Just by sitting next to someone.
Yeah. And the wrong seats.
And the wrong seats.
Whatever higher power or anything, I'm just like, yep, that was a God wink. That was like
totally.
We got you. Well,
yes.
Yeah, we're here. You're not forgotten.
Absolutely loves it. He lives down there. He goes to school Monday through Friday. Okay. And we get to see him on the weekends. It was definitely hard at first, but he loves it. Yeah. He loves it.
Yeah. Yeah. I had seen a couple of weeks ago too that like he kind of had a big moment, and Ava went down there and
for his prom.
Yes.
They have a prom every year, and even though he's not necessarily the age of like your typical proms in normal high schools, Gavin has been going to the prom since he's been about 7.
Oh gosh.
But he loves it, and so now that Ava's gotten a little bit older, she did she got to wear a formal dress, and so yes, she went down and was his date this year, so that was kind of a big deal.
What is their relationship like a little bit, like just like, I know, like I said, like our 2 oldest, Lynn and Lauren, are 15 months apart to the day. Could not be more different humans on like basically every single like level. But they are 2 peas in a pod. Like, don't get me wrong, they will like butt heads and like in full sibling, like just kind of like attack mode at times. But like, especially when they were younger, we would always sit back and like you would almost think that like they would like just orbit around each other, like whether it was at in the living room or over like a family member's house, like they would maybe start off like, but you could just tell like they would just kind of like orbit back, where like they were kind of each other's strengths for for a really long time. And like, again, kind of like a God wink again, I'm like, I think that was purposeful, because they needed each other when Sam was diagnosed too, because height of COVID, with Sam, like they couldn't come to the hospital. They couldn't, like when we went and got his second surgery, it was out of state, where like that's just one thing where I'm just like, that was laid in the foundational from like when they were born, of like, you guys got each other and you guys are always going to be with each other. With it. So I was curious of just like similar age difference a little bit, different components obviously, but of just like between them.
Yes, they're very similar. 17 months apart. They have a very strong bond. Ava has always been like a mother hen to him, always watchful and looked out for him. I'll never forget, she brought him for her show and tell in 2nd grade, and she wanted to show the class and talk about her brother who's blind. And she's just always been very protective of Gavin and cared so much about him. They have a strong bond. Definitely.
How kind of where you guys are now, you have your youngest and Ava's getting older, Gavin's getting older, and we married in a great relationship. How would you say impact throughout the years has affected you? I know you said Ava is been always kind of like his protector and that component but even with like getting into like the school of blind and just the different struggles, and ups and downs of like, I think your kiddos and our kiddos, similar, like too close together, and then one a little bit further apart, with it, where I think it's just it can be interesting of how it all affects them differently in different ages. And
Yes.
this isn't a hard stop journey. This isn't like okay, like, good, we got you here, we got, like, even if, kids go into remission or they're cancer free, like, there's still aftermath that shifts not only their life but the story of like the siblings and other family members' lives.
It affects the whole family.
Yeah.
And you don't really realize it right then and there,
Mm-hmm.
but especially I've noticed it, especially when they hit the teenage years.
Mm-hmm.
I have gotten Ava into counseling.
Okay.
She was resistant at first,
Mm-hmm.
but I've noticed it sometimes when she thinks she's made comments, sometimes I feel you may pay more attention to Gavin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily, I certainly don't mean to by any means.
No, yeah.
He just requires more attention
Mm-hmm.
sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's been really beneficial for her,
Mm-hmm.
especially for, a 14-year-old girl going through teenage years.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure. And I think that is such a normal reaction for any kiddos, like, in their siblings in this situation. And I think like that is something that it maybe isn't talked about as much of. There is, and I don't want to speak for you, but like I still kind of carry like that mom guilt, of even like trying to be intentional and trying to, give all attention, in different things, but especially like at the height of it, and then different things of like appointments and, and scans and tests, and different things, like, even when there's intentionality of like, I don't want them to feel this, and you do everything to kind of like manage that perception, it's still a very normal component, because the reality is at times, like, it does just go to like to that kiddo, and it's something that I've had to remind myself on the hard days too, of it's not you like caring more or choosing, this, it's just kind of like the journey on different steps. And so even, talking with like Landon and Lauren being a little bit older when Sam was diagnosed, they were still like 15 years old, 14 years old, where they deserve that attention too. And like, and trying to talk with myself of like, okay, like, you're doing the best that you can, and like the good days, I know that, right? Or we know that. And the bad days, you're like, well, kind of screwed that up again, or having them say that, or even like with one of our kids' struggle, like that was something that kind of came to head, where they had shared like, I was just wanting attention from somebody,
right.
And knowing that they didn't say that to hurt me, but that was their truth, that was like where they were at. And I was like,
gosh darn it,
I get it. Like,
yes.
I get it. And it's hard not to feel that, like, that failure, as a parent. And again, on your good days, I know that it wasn't, it's the cards that we were kind of dealt. But on your bad days, you're like, oh crap, am I doing anything right? Like,
right.
Talk
Absolutely.
to me, like with it and different things. And it's hard. And even now, like, not teasing sometimes, like, especially our oldest will be like, Mom, you can't let him, like, like, stop it. Like, you're babying him, you're cuddling him. I'm just like, I probably am, but like, it's hard when you're like, we almost lost him. Like, they're, and we're 4 or 5 years down in our journey, but like, there's still times where I catch myself. I'm like, Sarah, stop. Like, let him go and do it. Let him go, and it's hard to fight urge to be like, okay,
I know,
go and do it, and I'm just not going to pay attention, and different things. But it is, and it is like that guilt that it can, if you think about it and let it grow, like it can be suffocating. And sometimes
Yes.
it's like, nope, I'm gonna give myself grace, because I would give someone else this grace, because it's just hard.
Yep.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like it's the wise mind and the emotional mind can kind of sometimes battle like with
Yes.
that. And so I'm glad that like Ava was able to be like, okay, like let me go try it. Let me go and like have like this safe spot and this safe person to kind of go and share and vent, with that. And so that can be helpful. That can be helpful. What about the little guy? I know he obviously is a new 6-year-old, very, very big and very, very almost an adult now.
I know.
But how I mean, this is just kind of his normal. Like this is just what he knows. Yeah.
He reminds me a lot of Ava when Ava was that age with Gavin. He's very inquisitive. He thinks that everyone with cancer can't see.
Okay. Yeah. Because it's just what he knows. Yeah. Yeah.
He's just very inquisitive, and I've taken him down to the school for the blind, and I've just been very open and honest with him. Everything he asks, I'm just very honest, like, Mom, why can't Gavin see? And I've just been very transparent with him, just like I was with Ava.
Yeah.
I always remember Ava asking me, like, can Gavin only see black? And I've always wanted that too. What a good question.
Yeah, I was just like, that just popped in my head too. I was like, oh.
And I know he can see light.
Okay.
Because, and then if he's laying in the dark and I'll flip on the light switch, he'll squint his eyes.
Okay. Yeah.
Which honestly has always given me solace, because at least I know he can see some light. But yeah, he's both kids. Ben is very gentle with him too, but he makes me laugh too, because Gavin has very small ounces of tolerance for Ben too.
Oh, yeah.
He's that little annoying brother.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That train's never late between older and younger siblings, right? Yeah. With that. What's something you and your family have been on this journey way longer than where we are at with ours, but what's something that you wish that other people knew about pediatric brain cancer? Like, what's something that you're like, I wish that like this was more well known, or anything kind of like along that component with this journey?
I wish, kind of what we just touched on, that it doesn't just affect the child, it affects the family as a whole. Like you had just said, like the siblings, the grandparents, the friends. It's not just a Facebook post, it's not just a like,
Right.
If somebody is going through it, offer to go, not just say, if you need anything, let me know. Actually go sit with them, offer to bring them a meal. It's a lot of us, I'm speaking for myself, when you go through things like that, it's hard to ask for help.
Absolutely.
So actually, to physically be there for someone speaks volumes when you go through something like that.
Having someone there, like kind of come and physically, like come and sit, or just kind of come be like, nope, I'm going to bring you a meal. Like, stop telling me no. Like, with it, was that kind of like some of the biggest support that you're like, yeah, I leaned on that.
You lean on it because your life literally just turns upside down. I mean, it's just your life turns upside down. It's your child. And until you go through something like that, I just don't think people truly fully grasp.
And I think that's a lot of times, like we'll hear from people who like are in the support systems, like asking just that of like, I don't know how to support, or I don't know what to say, or should I text them? Should I not? I don't want, and I think like that's something that I've said too, of just like, of text them without expecting a response back. Like not that families won't, but like sometimes like we're in just survival mode where I'm like, have I even brushed my teeth today?
Right.
Like especially like during those early days, but also of just like of sometimes just going and changing one word of like, rather than saying like, let me know what you need, coming and just saying like, I'm bringing you dinner on Tuesday.
Yes.
Is there any, yeah, like anything that you don't want, or, because there's times where it's like, I don't particularly enjoy like asking for help and getting better at it, I guess, with it. But also sometimes it's like, what day is it? I don't even know what I need. Like I need like laundry to magically be done, and, but like that's also like, for me, like just, I guess speaking for me, it's like, you're asking me another question that I don't have the answers to.
It's uncomfortable, and we're already uncomfortable.
Right. Or I'm like, I don't want to think about like anything else. And so that was some of like the biggest supports. And like when people are like, here, like I'm doing this, so like you can tell me no, but like we're doing, where I'm just like, oh, thanks, like, and just was really, really helpful. I just think like powerful for like support systems to like to know of like just say like, nope, this is what we're doing. Now obviously if someone's like, no, please don't like override that boundary, but like I think like just changing that word of like, let me know what you need, or hey, I'm here for you, let me know, saying hey, I'm here for you, and I'm bringing you a gift card for for pizza, or or like this or that. It doesn't even really have to be money, but like even like what you're saying of like, I'm gonna come over and like we're just gonna sit and we're like, I'm bringing coffee, and like let's talk about anything, like with it, of just like not feeling so like isolated that like it can at times.
Right.
I think can be helpful. Looking kind of ahead, how do you balance this journey of like, there is uncertainty for the future, but also like hope for the future? Like how do you kind of balance that, would you say?
Gosh, I try not to future trip. I call it too much, because
I love that terminology, future trip. I'm stealing that, Sarah. I'm stealing it.
I really try not to, because I have a lot of fear. Gavin can go to that school until he's 21. I really do not foresee Gavin holding a job.
Okay.
Gavin thrives on structure, and he loves that school. I do see him in some type of, day services or adult service type structured program.
Okay.
But as far as what the future holds, I'm really wholeheartedly giving that to God, because if I think about it too much, I just get such horrible anxiety. So I just
we say a lot, don't let your anxiety steal the moment,
right.
It can so quickly do it.
Yeah.
And that, and with that uncertainty, because you don't know, but you're also like, but I'm not going to let that steal like today, right now, whether it's a good baseball game over the weekend, or whatever it is. Like it's just being like, nope, like just. And again, my good days, great. My bad days, I'm like, well, I just lost 4 days because I've been in like a fear cycle of in that anticipation. Yeah.
And you know what? I have to say, he is such a happy kid, and he has taught me so much in his 16 years of life. He just loves life. He's so simple, and I really have learned a lot from him about don't sweat the small stuff. So
yeah, that's incredible. What if anything would you say to a family who just recently gotten diagnosed?
I would definitely say one day at a time, and knowledge is power, and just communication and resources and foundations. Like go SammyStrong. Like, this is a wonderful outlet. Connections with people like us. I think it's great to talk to people, you know, as far as where we have been. I didn't have that when we started out.
Yeah.
You know, when you start out blindly, not knowing resources or who to talk to or what doctors to go to, it's so hard.
Yeah.
So I think knowledge and just connections with people.
Yeah, that's so great. Yeah, we kind of always or joking will say like it's a family that you never want to belong to, but when you belong to it, we are fiercely with each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I agree. Totally. Well, I know it's been a lot of heavy conversation, so kind of like to circle back around to a little bit of fun. What's something fun that you guys all enjoy doing as a family, or any good movies or any good activities that you guys enjoy doing all together recently?
Oh gosh, recently. Well, we just built a house, so that's been our big fun thing.
That's been our big
fun expensive thing.
Yeah.
You know, we really have to take a trip. Gavin loves carousels. You know, he loves amusement park rides. That's his favorite. He loves going out to eat. That's
what's one of his favorite restaurants, or would you say a couple?
Valentino's.
The ranch and the breadsticks. I'm there with you, Gavin.
You know, he loves.
Yeah,
it's like a true Omaha kid.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh gosh, what is his other favorite? Oh, Romeo's. And Romeo's.
Our oldest, he goes to school starting second year of college, and the couple of times that he'll come home, we'll be like, okay, like it's almost like 100% like, yep, let's go to Romeo's. And okay, like, and I love it, and that's fine. But I was like, okay, like there it is. So no, so good. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So I mean, we haven't really done a whole lot. Kids just got out of school. We've been doing just stuff around the house, and we're just getting settled. So
no, that's so great. Any plans for the summer? I mean, obviously you guys have just settling into the house, so that can consume an entire summer easily. But anything in the works for the summer? Or
we really don't. We really don't. I wish we did. Ben is going to be getting into soccer. Ava just got accepted into Westside High School show choir. I know your daughter did show choir, so she's excited.
She just finished up her show choir. So great. That's so exciting.
And then Gavin is going to be starting his junior year next year. So a lot of swimming. He loves the water. So
great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So summer filled of music and swimming. It sounds like. Nope. That's perfect. That is perfect. That is so great. Well, thank you so incredibly much for taking the time to be here, and just your story, your family story is just incredible, and I admire your bravery and all of that to come on and share the journey with it, and just incredible strength for you and all of your family members. It's been an incredible story. I'm so glad we got to see each other face to face for the first time. So
thank you, Sarah.
No, awesome. Well, thank you guys very much for joining in with us. Again, we are the SammyStrong Foundation, and this is SammyStrong On Deck Warrior Stories. If you'd like to learn a little bit more, our website is gosammystrong.com. If you or anyone you know would like to come on the podcast On Deck, we would love to hear from you, or any questions or anything like that. If you want to shoot in on our social media or email us from our website, we would love to be able to kind of get a collection of questions that we can help other families or other support systems to be able to just continue this journey and know that they're not alone, and kind of get some of those questions answered if we can. Also, I would be amiss if I didn't say, if you or anyone that you know would like to be a sponsor on the podcast, we would love to hear from you as well. We have our big yearly fundraiser coming up. We are having our 5th annual SammyStrong 5K Home Run Derby that is out at Warner Park on Saturday, August 2nd. It is an amazing family fun event. It's our biggest fundraiser for the year. We have added in a 1-mile walk run. And we've also tweaked our 5K of, you can fully just run or walk the 5K if you want, but we've also turned it into a 5K relay if anyone would like to. That was a strong suggestion from Sammy, stating that baseball players only run 90 feet, and so he would like a relay instead of the 3 miles. And our home run derby, anyone 8 and older gets to go down on the field and hit home runs, age appropriate distances for those home runs. But again, it is a great event. All proceeds going back to other kids and families fighting pediatric brain cancer. You can register or find more information on that on our website. Again, GoSammyStrong.com. So thank you very much. And again, Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys.